Hey, Kelli, for those who may not know you, share a little bit of what you do at Moody Bible Institute.
Yeah, I am a professor in the communications department. And so my main area of emphasis is creative writing.
Yeah.
But have done historically a lot of the drama productions on campus and speech communication as well.
Now, before all that, Moody, what did you do to lead you up to be a professor? Were you officially a creative writer and all the other stuff? What did you do before that?
My undergraduate degree was in technical writing.
Okay.
So this was back in the early 90s.
Like manuals, things like that. Okay.
Yeah, so technical writing was a very up-and-coming field.
Yeah.
And so even though I preferred the creative side of things, I thought as an undergraduate this would make me more marketable. So I was a communications major with a technical writing emphasis.
Yeah.
And so then graduated in 1991 and was looking, for what God had for me next. And a lot of my colleagues, a lot of my peers in undergrad were going into technical writing for like IBM and different companies like that. I really wanted to use my gifting more for ministry.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know what that would look like. And so my advisor for my undergrad, she had been doing some curriculum writing for churches.
Yeah.
And that sounded really interesting to me. Once upon a time, I was also an education major, so I was interested in the education realm as well. So curriculum kind of fit a few different interests that I had. So I started sending my resume out to any Christian publisher I could find, and that's what landed me in Chicago.
Wow, okay.
My first entry-level position was developing and writing children's church curriculum for Regular Baptist Press in Schaumburg, Illinois.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did that, and then they gave me opportunities to travel for them and speak and do workshops, and so I was developing my public speaking abilities as well at the same time as editing and project management and
And then recently you've been doing a lot more blogging and also writing books, both you and your husband as well too. How did that go about starting?
So I did that. Undergrad was in publishing, Christian publishing, for about 7 years, and then came to Moody to teach. And while I was at the publisher, I did my first master's at seminary. Did a seminary degree in religious education. And then through that period, knew I wanted to teach. And then I landed at Moody in 1998. And once I got there, I was teaching in the writing realm. I was teaching public speaking. I was doing a lot of drama, and I loved all of it. I was kind of a jack of all trades. And I knew I wanted more education. I just didn't know what exactly. And so it took me a few years to figure that out. Ended up doing a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing at Roosevelt University. And so really over a process of a few years decided what I want to do for the rest of my life is write. Of all those things, I think writing is where I want to focus. And so did the MFA, finished that up, and then knew my thesis project was a book-length memoir piece, and so I knew I wanted to revisit it and look at publishing and try to figure out that whole world, what that would look like. So I had a sabbatical from Moody a few years back and was going back and editing, and that's when I launched my blog. And so my early blog posts was thisoddhouse.org, and now it's kelliworrall.com. But started just posting some of that content and getting feedback, interacting with readers about that. Along the way, one of my blog posts was called 20 Things I Might Have Told My 20-something Self. And that one kind of blew up. And so I sent that to Relevant magazine, and it did very well at Relevant. And so then Moody Publishers contacted me. I was already shopping around a book proposal called This Odd House and was getting interest, but I didn't have a big enough platform for publishers to pick it up. But when that post did so well, the Moody Publishers came back to me and said, we think maybe this is a book. And so that's how 20 Things We Tell Our 20-something Selves came about. And then my second book, so 20 Things was in partnership with my husband, Peter. And then I wrote Pierced and Embraced, 7 Life-Changing Encounters with the Love of Christ, myself. And so that was more recent.
One of the things that you mentioned is that you love writing and you knew that you always wanted to write. Like for some of the people who may be listening or they're sitting there, I don't even know what I want to do. What are my passions? What advice would you give to those guys who are trying to figure out how can you be so sure that you wanted writing or you like writing?
Yeah, it took a while. Like I said, I loved all of it. My problem
Yeah.
was I loved too many things. And so trying to hone in on the one where I felt like God was really calling me to press in and get more training and to move forward was a process. It took me a while. Partly it was trying all of them and getting feedback from people, having other people, letting other people speak in and say, you know, this really is where your gifting seems to lie. That was super encouraging. Some of it was just the practicalities of it. Like I knew I wanted to speak, but I didn't think that that was necessarily the cornerstone of what the ministry God was calling me to. I love drama. I didn't know that that was the lifestyle I wanted. You know, it's a lot of evenings and weekends, and there was just that practical piece that just didn't seem. We were newly married and hoping to start a family. And so, but writing and really looking back to even in childhood, I loved to write.
Yeah.
And I was always writing a story and that kind of thing. And so there was a history there. And yeah, I came back to it.
I love how you said the process. Like for instance, I could sit there and tell you, I love project management. I love taking ideas and putting it all together. I could tell you, I don't like creative writing because that's not passion. I could do major donor fundraising and networking, but I'm an introvert by nature, and I don't always enjoy interacting with people. But it all was a process where I could tell that when I was a younger boy, when I played with my toys, I just enjoyed building things with my toys versus actually, but I never enjoyed writing. And all those things, God is giving you little ideas to really help you become who you are right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can trace it back all the way, you know, even teaching. I love teaching. You know, I played school as a kid, a lot of kids, you know, but I enjoyed it even back then. So
would your advice be for different people as they're trying to figure out what the process to try different things and explore a lot of those things?
Absolutely. Try different things. in my journey toward figuring out, like a big decision was, am I going to commit to getting an MFA? That's years of my life, thousands of dollars, you know, and so that's why it took me a few years to be ready to go. And one of the things I did was I took classes around town, just individual classes before I committed to a whole program. So I took writing classes in adult education through Northwestern and through the community colleges here. So it was a lower investment. And then kept building my portfolio. I also took acting classes and directing classes, kind of trying all those areas that I knew I enjoyed to see what's really going to stick. Yeah.
And then even, I think a lot of times, like communications, you teach a lot of communication courses now, and switching gears a little bit, communications, is it different now, how you're training students on communications than when you learned creative writing communications back in the days?
I would say the basics are always the basics. And so what makes a good story, I don't think has changed a lot, you know, and good use of language, I don't think that's changed. But how we teach it and where our students are at when they come to us is quite different. You know, like in a texting age, and they use language differently than they did 20 years ago when I started. Or when I was studying. And so we're at a different starting place, but I think some of those basics of how to communicate a message and get it across clearly and succinctly and coherently, like those principles don't change.
Got it. And it seems like, especially in this day and age, whether it's churches or organizations, communications has become so much more important. You got to communicate on Instagram, you got to communicate on Facebook, everything. But you got to clearly share about what the impact is as well.
And that's the other big change is the output. So, you know, things like blogs or like you're saying, Instagram and, you know, where we're putting our messages definitely has changed. And so some of those techniques have to be tweaked for the medium for sure.
Now, hopefully I'm not putting you on the spot. As you look at communications and where some of these mediums are, how is communications going to change and develop here in the next generation or in the next couple of years?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't know that I'm the best one to answer it. I think we see platforms changing so rapidly. It's hard to predict, I think. And things have such short shelf life. You know, certain things stick for a little while. But then there's the new thing. And, you know, they're always looking to create something a little better, a little flashier, a little faster, a little So I don't know that we can predict necessarily.
Like I think Twitter is very popular here, still in the U.S. But when I gone to Jakarta, Twitter is not very popular.
Really?
Instagram and Insta posts and Facebook. Instagram is probably the most popular.
Yeah.
Snapchat is no longer even on the radar, anything like that.
Yeah.
So, wow, okay. And then also for you in terms of your life as well too. So you're teaching, you're speaking. What else are you finding that you're a mom of two adopted kids, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So our lives are full, like most people's are. So yeah, both Peter and I teach at Moody, and then we write and speak, and we were homeschooling our kids.
Yeah.
But now they are in school, but so I'm a mom and caring for them. They're 10 and 7.
Got it. And they're both Asian?
Amelia she's adopted from China.
Okay.
Daryl is African-American Hispanic, adopted through the foster system in Chicago.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Both of them African-American, Asian. How have you integrate their cultures, helping them understand their culture? What have you learned about African-American culture and Asian culture through this time?
Yeah. It's tough, I will say, partly because we live way out in McHenry, so the diversity out there is less than what we would have had if we lived here in the city. And for a while we were trying to move into the city, and one of our motivations was partly to be closer to Moody, but partly to be in a more diverse culture for them. And so we have to seek it out there a little bit more than we would have, but we also love bringing them into the city.
Good.
And so they come into Moody a lot with us. They come into the city. We enjoy those sorts of things. Trying to get them into some language learning. Trying to have Amelia learn some Mandarin, and Daryl's been learning a little bit of Spanish. Needing to seek those things out, and then just get them mentors in their life who look like them, right? Who have a similar background from them. And so looking for those, seeking that out. We have to seek it out. So, yeah.
Wow. This whole idea of just even with your kids and all that other stuff is, how have you learned how to balance? Because like you said, you're an author, you're a speaker, you're a professor, you're a mom. What's your best advice for some of the people who are listening here? They run busy lives as well too. How do you prioritize? How do you balance everything all together?
Yeah, I'm not great at it, I'll be honest with you. My husband 3 weeks ago had a stroke. And so something like that causes you to reevaluate everything. And so you kind of find me right now with everything on the table again, and what's essential.
Because you're running the family,
Yeah, so he's going to be recovering for a while. He won't be working for a little while. So even just in the last 3 weeks, I've had to cut other things out just to prioritize family right now. And it won't always look like it looks right now. I think that's one thing I've learned. Like there are seasons when life looks a little different. And for a while we were homeschooling, so that was a priority for us. Other things had to go. Now the kids are back in a school setting. So that frees up some other space, and just kind of holding it, see what God wants to do with it. But it's a little bit shifting at the moment. So, yeah.
Well, hey, last question on you. As you continue to really reflect upon you educating students and everything like that, how do you really be able to help those students who are interested in arts and communication to continue to embrace that? How do you help them to really be able to use their skills to continue to really proclaim the gospel wherever they're at?
Yeah. Our students at Moody are wonderful, and they have a real vision, many of them, for the kingdom and using their gifting in the kingdom. So I think what I love to do in the classroom is really help each of them find kind of their sweet spot, their gifting, their particular niche. And I think one of the dangers is that comparison factor, that culture of comparison. And I think with social media that has been exacerbated even to a greater degree, where we see what everybody else is doing, and success looks like that, or ministry looks like that.
How many followers, how many likes?
What is God calling you to do? And what is your place? And what is He calling you? And being obedient. I think that's one thing that Peter and I has become a theme. Like, we just want to be obedient. Just want to obey. What is He calling us to do right now? What does that look like? And I think as we walk into this new season for our family, where in the last 3 weeks, everything's kind of been thrown up in the air, and we're seeing still where things are going to fall. Like, okay, what does it look like to be obedient right now in this place? He's calling us to something new, something different. This is not the family life we knew 3 weeks ago. So how do I be obedient right here, right now? What does that look like?
Speaking of that, I know you, I had one more question that I thought of as you were talking about this whole idea of celebrity, how many followers, all communications these
Yeah.
days is creating a celebrity platform. How many friends do I have? How many people are in my
Yeah.
network? You work at Moody Bible Institute, we're supposed to be servants,
Yep.
meek and humble.
Yeah.
What is your encouragement for students to say, hey, you still got to pay attention to the communications, but it's not about creating your platform?
Right.
Well, how do you teach
Right.
them? How do you help them when the world says, how many followers do you have?
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard because even for me as an author, when I put a book proposal in, one of the main things they look at is my platform.
Correct.
And so I can get caught up in that, and I have to build my email list, and I have to do that. The way I handle it and then how I try to mentor my students is similar to what I was just saying about be obedient. Like I need to be faithful to what God has called me to do and leave the rest up to Him.
Yeah.
I will write the best blog posts that I can for His glory, using my creativity and the thoughts that He gives me and let Him direct that. However many shares it gets, I can't control that and I can't worry about it.
Yeah.
And He can take care of that. Right? And so knowing what is mine to steward and what is in His hands and not worrying about what is His is how I navigate it and then how I try to pass that on to them.
Got it. Thank you, Kelli. Appreciate it.
Thank you.